Right, 6-16. Chelsea strengthened their claim to a Champions League spot with a 1-0 win over Spurs last night. Enzo Fernandez got the goal that lifts Chelsea up into fourth. The defeat, however, increases pressure on Spurs boss Ange Postecoglou, whose side remain 14th in the league. Spurs fans were heard loud and clear chanting, "You don't know what you're doing," when Postecoglou brought on Papi Sarr in place of Lucas Bergvall in the 65th minute. Sarr smashed in an excellent long-range strike 4 minutes later, which led to Postecoglou cupping his ear, turning to the away end, only for VAR to then rule out the goal for a foul on Moises Caicedo. Postecoglou has insisted he was not trying to provoke Tottenham fans with the gesture.
It's incredible how things get interpreted. We just scored. I just wanted to hear them cheer because, I mean, we've been through a tough time and I thought it was a cracking goal and I wanted them to get really excited because I felt at that point we could potentially go on and win the game. It's not the first time they've booed my substitutions or my decisions. That's fine. They're allowed to do that, but we just scored a goal. We just scored an equaliser. I was just hoping that we could get some excitement.
I think you can call that classic Postecoglou post-match chat there. Let's speak to Chelsea fan Tom Overend. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Oh, there's a happy man in West London. We've got Spurs supporter Chris Cowlin. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Gordon.
Oh, you can tell already a very, very different demeanour. I think, Chris, we need to speak to you first of all, right? What's your interpretation of Ange Postecoglou's interaction, shall we call it, with the Spurs fans? How did you see it?
Well, he's losing more and more confidence week by week amongst the Spurs fan base. It's been a very, very frustrating season. The frustration, anger, disappointment is just building week by week. And I was very disappointed to see Ange Postecoglou acting that way again. But the Spurs fans are just so frustrated, and there is a toxic feeling running through the club at the moment. Everyone's fighting one another. There's protests against the chairman. A lot of people want the manager gone. We're breaking record after record, week by week, and not in a good way. And players are being criticised week by week. The fans are, arguing amongst themselves. So it's a real toxic feeling. The only thing we're holding on to at the moment is the Europa League, but the league position. We haven't been in this position for a very, very long time, and 16 league defeats out the opening 30 league games. We haven't done that since 1977. So there is another record that, it's just very, very disappointing.
Chris, it's really interesting to hear your interpretation of it because, I think Ange Postecoglou is a fairly straightforward individual, but do you believe what he was saying there? He wanted to hear a big response from the Spurs fans, but if you look on social media, there's a lot of him sort of arguing with Spurs fans at various different grounds around the country. Do you believe what he was saying there?
I don't believe what he was saying at all. I think that he wanted to respond in that way, and that's why I think that a lot of people have had it with him now. I've been a great supporter of Ange Postecoglou up until the Fulham game before the international break, and I just can't see this working. I just think it's a matter of time now before he's gone, and I just think that Spurs are a complete mess at the moment. And I'm trying to be positive here. I'm one of the positive ones, and it's just been so disappointing. Like last night, there was no creativity, there was no real game plan, and most importantly for me, there was no structure. A lot of us were thinking, like, what on earth are you doing? And I think that Ange, realised last night he'd done something seriously wrong, and then he came out and said that to the media. I think I'd have preferred him to say, I had enough of fans singing, "You don't know what you're doing." And, when your own fan base is singing that, I just don't think there's long left for you.
Yeah, it's questionable whether he can salvage it from this position. But Tom and Chris, you're probably going to dislike this part of the chat, but Tom, you must love every second of that, seeing a London rival struggling like this while you're sort of cementing your position in the top four.
Yeah, yes, but I mean, Chelsea were in the same position a couple of years ago, and I guess the only way's up from here in a way. But yeah, Champions League football's looking in a good spot. I think if we can beat Brentford on Sunday, I'd say we're a little bit ahead of the game with it. And, it's going to be a tough run in. We got some really tough games ahead, but if we can just keep winning, keep grinding out wins, absolutely, I think we're in a really good spot to be in the Champions League next season.
Yeah. Tom, it's an interesting position for Cole Palmer because, you know, in his career, he's had a bit of a bumpy ride recently. Things just haven't gone to plan, but that header in the game last night where he kind of played Enzo Fernandez, and that must have given you some cheer and a big smile as a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he just looked a bit more back to himself last night. He had a bit more mojo, a bit more confident. A bit more confidence. It didn't feel like he was trying to get a goal or assist to kind of boost him. It felt like he was very, very secure in himself. And, you know, I very much see the goal, the assist coming, and a very, very big run of form soon.
Tom, I'm really interested to hear your take on this because it feels like Nottingham Forest have taken a lot of headlines, Bournemouth as well, Aston Villa. So meanwhile, Chelsea have just quietly kind of got on with things this season. It's kind of been fairly unremarkable. What's your appraisal of it so far this season? Because it has been a bit of a mixed bag.
I mean, I think it was excellent up until December. You know, the run of form, second in the league in December. It did get tougher after that. I think teams started realising we were pretty good and decided to kind of park the bus defensively. And we really started to struggle with that, which is why I think the games have become kind of unremarkable. But sitting in fourth with 8 games to go is really where we need to be. I think most fans set Champions League football as a reasonable goal this season, and with each game it's getting nearer and nearer.
Sounds like it. And Chris, you know, meanwhile, you've got Southampton at the weekend. I mean, Ange Postecoglou really needs a big performance. What do you want to see from the players and from the manager this weekend?
Well, ultimately, we need to get back to winning ways, especially against Southampton, one of the worst teams in Premier League history. So, you know, definitely a win, but it's a huge week next week, you know, in the Europa League. And I think that, you know, like I said earlier, I think everyone's pinning their hopes on trying to win the Europa League. But yeah, we've got to give everything and just try and make this a successful season in some ways, because league position is just is terrible at the minute.
Yeah, tough times. And Tom, it's another West London derby for you, Chelsea, Brentford. Are you feeling confident? Brentford not a bad side at all.
Brentford always tough, especially away from home. I think we've actually only beaten them twice since they've come up, but they haven't won at home since December. So I've got to hope, you know, got to be hopeful that this time we can take the 3 points.
Okay, well, great to speak to you both, Chris and Tom. Chelsea and Spurs fans this morning joining us. Thank you so much and best of luck this weekend. Plenty more reaction on the 5 Live Football Daily podcast. That's on BBC Sounds. And we've got more football to talk about later on in